start this meeting. Oh, are you ready? I'm sorry. Notice of public hearing for the future year, 2023-2024 budget and special city council meeting. The city council for the city of Brookshire, Texas will hold a public hearing and a special city council meeting on September the 26th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. in Brookshire City Hall, located at 4029 5th Street, for the purpose of the following. I would like to go ahead and have a prayer and do the pledge of allegiance. Everyone feel free. Chief?
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here this evening. Pray that you give everybody the strength and knowledge to make sound decisions. Lord, we thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for sending your Son down the cross to forgive us of our many sins. In Christ's name I pray.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Miss Erica or Miss Molina, would you call us to order, please, ma'am?
Alderman Neuendorf,
Present.
Alderman Taylor,
Here.
Alderman McAnally,
Present.
Mayor Branch,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Present.
Alderman Branch.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. We will move to agenda item number 5, public comments. In accordance with the Open Meeting Act and Texas Government Code 551.007, City Council may not discuss or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Each member of the public wishing to speak must sign in prior to the meeting, and it's limited to 3 minutes.
There are none there.
I know. I'm just going through.
Gotcha.
Okay, we have no one for public comments. The next item is agenda item number 6.
Mayor, on number 6, we're gonna do discussion on the budget before we open up the hearing.
Okay.
I put the budget in front of y'all and we can kind of work through this just department by department so you know what to expect or if you have any questions on the budget. Like I talked about in the last council meeting, it was very difficult to put this together because what we have discovered is that we do not have accurate financial statements. And one of the things that we are dealing with is that we have a accountant who hasn't even finished inputting data from the year 2021, and here we are working on a 23-24 budget. So I have done the best that I can.
Mr. Chambers we're waiting on?
Yes. Talking to each department head, finding out what their essential resources are, what those costs are, what reoccurring costs are, and where to plug those in. I have talked to you, each of you, in the previous meeting about in several departments there are essential services that for the past 2 years weren't even properly budgeted for. So I can tell you that on the PD side we have about $50,000 worth of software that is a reoccurring annual charge, and it has not been budgeted for in the budget. We were $105,000 off on our liability insurance. So there are some places where you will see some big changes. I think for the year going forward, I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think in some conversations with many of you, the one department that we do want to put emphasis on that I think is due some emphasis this next year is our police department. And not only is that due in kind of restructuring our pay scale, but our facility in itself. We have some major renovations that need to happen at that facility to, one, not only bring it up to code, but to just get us into a facility that's operating correctly. So we'll start out on the first page, which is revenues. I printed these out in color because I wanted you to see if there is a line that has a strike through and it's red, that's actually a line item that we're going to be getting rid of, because either we don't use it, it's not relevant anymore, we've gotten rid of the function of that line item. So in revenue, you'll see the first three all relate to taxes. So that revenue on delinquent taxes, all of that is going to be reflected into one line item for ad valorem tax, and that's going to be a direct deposit from Assessments of the Southwest, because all of that will be reflected in the deposits that they make directly to the city. So we won't need those anymore.
So all of those roll up into the ad valorem?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So I think going down, you will see, let me see where some of the big ones. A lot of these, we just kind of kept the same because, as I had already alluded to, I'm going to be coming back to the meeting in January and doing a mid-year adjustment once we have a firmer hand on how finances are being executed and how they're being input. One thing that I immediately recognized was an issue is that we are not set up in what we call consolidated cash. So consolidated cash means, like in an instance of this, we have on here like court costs. So we have, municipal court fines, account 330 on revenue. So we have $150,000 of what we estimate as our revenue. If somebody comes in and has a ticket of $100, the city doesn't collect $100 of that ticket. That ticket is proportionated out to the state of Texas on the federal level, and then there's specific different state funds that, depending on what the violation is, has to go into those funds. We have never set up our system to reflect the disbursement of those tickets and how they are dispersed. So I've been working with Sherry trying to get actual disbursement percentages and how those look on the expense side. Because when you go, if we're logging in $100 ticket on the expense side, we should expense a $100 ticket with those different funds going out, and it's not set up that way. Another one that I have spoken with Councilman Hill about is the economic development. You will see down here where there is income reimbursement from Brookshire Economic Development. So one of the agreements that we have is that the city pays for Ms. Casto's salary, her retirement, and her insurance, and then the economic development reimburses us. We have been incorrectly reimbursed. As you can see on the, I take that back. It's not that we've been incorrectly reimbursed. We didn't budget correctly. So according to the budget that we have posted from last year, we were only paying her a salary of $8,000, which is incorrect. So we have made those adjustments and added that on here as well. We did, in doing our research with economic development, we did realize that they haven't properly been reimbursing us. They've only been reimbursing us the salary amount, not the insurance and the retirement. So we're working together to make those changes.
No, we have been.
We have?
Yeah, we have been. It's just
Okay.
not accounted for
Okay,
on the
perfect.
city side for some reason.
Okay.
But yes, we've been.
So a lot of, there's a lot of those that you will see on here. Some of the ones that are zeroed out, I want to explain, like garbage fees, garbage department administrative fees. That's because we're going out for bid right now for the waste hauling services. And we have specified in that agreement that the waste hauler has to handle all billing. So the only expenses that the revenues that the city will incur from that hauling contract is our franchise fees. And we are having a hard time locating if we have even correctly received the correct amount of franchise fees, because the way that it's working right now is that the water district bills out for garbage, you pay the garbage, It goes back to everybody pays them, then they pay us, but then we're billed from Republic and we have to pay Republic. So we do know that there are some missing funds, whether it is coming on the administrative side or the franchise side. We're not really certain. One thing that we were able to discover when we talked to Republic last week is that we currently are paying no franchise fees on residential trash service. We're only paying franchise fees on commercial. That is extremely unheard of. So that's a revenue source that we have completely missed out on. Most cities average anywhere from 6 to 9% on residential franchise fees. And how many households do we have?
2219 was the last.
Okay,
cost.
2219 that we could be, you know, and it's not an additional fee to the end user. That's just a percentage that the hauler provides to the city for being able to have exclusive business rights within the city. So on those garbage ones, we have zeroed those out, but you will see that we do have the franchise fees, the garbage franchise fees, which is $311. We kept that the same. Does anybody have questions on the revenue?
So what's the justification for the $1.9 million increase in the ad valorem tax?
That was just our appraised value. So we had an increased value of commercial property this year. So that's what increased on the ad valorem value. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's I see that we're budgeting 2.1 million, almost 2.2 million additional in sales tax.
Because that was incorrectly reported in the past.
Once again, in Far West.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So sales tax, it's a formula. When we get sales tax, and you can see down here at the very bottom that spills over onto page 2, I have actually cataloged this past year's sales tax. So the sales tax is deposited to the city in a complete total amount of 4.2 million, and then we pay a quarter of that to the economic development. And to be quite honest, it just was inappropriately budgeted in the past. So that's why you're seeing what looks like a giant increase from last year.
Okay. And how confident are you in the 9.2 total revenues?
Pretty confident. I mean,
That did not come across as being pretty confident.
I will say there are some that I was uncertain because we don't have accurate records, but I budgeted on the low side. So I would rather budget on the low side rather than the high side.
The police department forfeiture funds, how does this affect the budgeters? Because they're restrictive. it
They are
doesn't-
restrictive, and we don't, it's really hard to budget on that because and you might be able to help me with that, Chief. We really don't know. I do know that we have, I think, 11 cases outstanding right now, but for some of those, it could be 2 years before we get paid on them. So it's really hard to put even a percentage number on what those would be and what the value
That's
would
fair.
be.
So the municipal court's restricted revenue, what is that specifically?
That,
derived from?
again, that is one of those accounts that Sherry, it's divvied out depending on the type of violation, right. And so she's trying to go through and do a more accurate breakdown. She felt confident in those numbers based on what was acquired this last year.
And there was at one time a technology
Correct.
fund.
Mhm.
so
And again, I think that's a restricted
it is.
contribution, and so she's kind of going through and trying to get a better understanding of how it's.
Technology fund bought those lovely marble floors, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
This is more for my knowledge. The mobile home permit fees.
I'm sorry, which ones?
The mobile home permit fees.
Mhm.
To my knowledge, we've not allowed a single mobile home
That shouldn't even.
in the
be
last year and a
And city
half.
ordinance says that they're not allowed, right?
there. So that
Are they allowed
should-
one grandfather?
No.
Okay.
So just
They're not allowed one,
Then that's a line item. I mean,
earmarked to
we
kind
can-
of.
we
let's
can
like the
watch
ones
actually
these
that are
strike it out.
existing, the ones that are existing are allowed to stay and they can sell, correct?
They can sell and they can upgrade
Uh-huh.
or they can build a regular home on their property. But everything must be put into a mobile home park.
Gotcha.
All the mobile homes.
So any of the ones that are existing, is it written in our ordinance that if the property sells, it's deed restricted to move?
I couldn't answer
I think you
that
could
off
do
the
that.
top of my
I think
head.
once we
I think
go-
so.
Combination of zoning and home rule, I think there's ways to
Mhm.
do that.
there are.
Okay.
Our RV parks, we don't have permit fees on RV parks. Now that I'm thinking about this,
That I don't
I
know.
would've-
I can find out tomorrow.
I think there is, but anyway. We just have the.
Permit fees for the RV parks?
Yeah. I thought there was something in the,
There's like
Cool.
two, I think.
There's two RV parks.
There's
in
the new Sunbreeze or whatever it's
Sea
called.
Breeze with the
Seabreeze.
water
yeah, that's
park.
in the ETJ.
And there's
though.
one up,
It is ETJ, but then there's one inside the city limits right across from
Yep.
Grunfos.
Yep.
yeah.
So I just thought I remembered something in the ordinance related.
You can
to
kind
it.
of see it from the freeway if you're going towards Sealy.
On your way, you have to turn right.
It's
before
behind
you
a
go to
building.
the next house.
If you drive up 90, it's right where Peach Ridge comes
So
into
if you go here,
the 90. That's the Sea Breeze.
Now, on line 364, you'll see
that's inside the
interest.
city limits. The other one's in
And
ETJ.
on line 364, you'll see interest, and I put in green. That was just a note for what, that was a question I asked Mr. Chambers, because we currently don't have any interest-bearing accounts.
Right.
We have
We should.
no investment accounts?
No.
No,
No.
We,
If-
Well-
we
we will though.
should.
Correct, we should.
Should.
So,
We have, or we had,
well, let me correct that. We do. We have Texpool and Techstar.
thank you.
However, in our Wells Fargo account, we should have investment accounts, like public administration investment accounts, and we don't. So in one of our accounts, we currently have close to $6 million. It's only FDIC insured up to 250.
How
So
much in it?
6 million, and we're only FDIC insured up to 250,000. So there is a specific
5,750,000
product
risk.
that is designed for public administration entities, Cedars accounts, and right now they are very, very lucrative. So that's one of the reasons why we have gone out to RFQ to look at new banking options. My concern is that our current institution has never even brought it up to our attention that, hey, you've got $6 million in an account and you're not investing that money and you're only secured up to 250,000. So
You do know that Wells Fargo is our bank, right?
correct.
Okay, and you understand the Wells Fargo lawsuits for their lack of customer
gonna say,
service?
correct.
Okay, so, yeah.
So, I mean, I've dealt
Fraud.
with Cedars and investments and even looking at some of the public investment money market accounts. And previously in other agencies I've been with, that if you're not using your money, then invest it wisely so that it makes money for you. And so that's one thing that with the new banking institution, whatever we choose through our RFQ, that's one of the things that I will be changing in January once I look at what that investment schedule is going to look like, how we put that money, so that interest is obviously going to change. That was just kind of a placeholder for right now.
Now, I remember some discussions prior to being on council, but while sitting in the audience, about that there is, I don't know if it's a policy, an ordinance, or what, that there was supposed to be, I believe it was $10,000 per month being invested into an investment fund.
Never happened.
And that fund has never been established.
Oh, it's established.
It's established.
Just never
and
has
it
happened
was
that the money's been-
The money's in the-
$5,000 quarterly,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what was that, Ms.
Quarterly.
Branch?
yes.
What was that, Ms. Branch?
It was said to have $5,000, well, I'm sorry, $50,000 quarterly put in
Okay,
that fund, and
it's just
like
never happened.
everything else, it undoubtedly didn't get taken care of.
So I can assure you that that is one of the first things when we, after we open up the bids and choose what financial institution we're going to, that's top on my list, because we've gone too long without it. So, and I think that will help in cleaning up. I mean, currently we have 17 bank accounts. So one of the intents is to be able to clean some of that up so that it makes sense.
And the more that you go to Wells Fargo, I'll just say, 2 employees spent 4 hours at Wells Fargo and accomplished nothing. And in the meantime, myself and when I was the mayor pro tem, as well as Mayor Branch, went, and the more that we sat with the lady, the less sense that it made. But Mayor Branch still is not privy to any account information. And the more he asked the previous employees to help with that, the less they did. So while everybody's going, well, where was the council and the mayor? Well, we was right there.
Can I ask, is it possible to make a delineation between building permits and certificate of occupancy permits? Just so for future casting, we kind of know.
We can actually, in Fund View, we can actually code it in Fund View.
Okay, perfect.
So since a certificate of occupancy is a building permit, on the revenue sheet, it'll show building, but we can delineate in our Fund View software.
Perfect.
And that's another thing that, when it comes to the municipal court and splitting up the tickets, that's, Fund View will split all of
Let's
that
scale
up. Right. And so
Great.
that's what Sherry's working on, is trying to get those actual formulas for what they look like.
Okay, that'd be good.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions on revenue, and we'll move on? Good, okay.
So, let me ask you this, on the sale of city properties,
Mm-hmm.
that's not happening or what?
I don't know. That's why I,
Budgeted conservatively.
right, conservatively.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's probably gonna take a minute, Mayor Branch, to even identify
Right.
Just
city
Which
properties.
properties?
If, you know, our,
pass the motion.
So on mayor and council budget, there's really not a whole lot of changes. The one major change here is that the monthly stipends that mayor and council get each month, we actually moved those to administration, which is where they need to be under a payroll line item, because you are continually paid on a regular cycle, which is considered payroll with your Medicare and your FICA and federal taxes. That really needs to be under the payroll line item, so that was moved to administration. The amounts are still the same, but what you'll see here is the mayor's expense allowance.
what,
We can change that. That's just kind of nobody could give me any sort of backup as to what that was.
I would like to elaborate on that, but it'd probably be in the best interest of myself and the other people involved that we don't discuss that, but I can tell you that that should be cut way down. It was asked to be cut way down before, because this mayor doesn't go to Washington DC and New York City and.
Well, I
Wow.
cut it down. I still want it to be there if there's something that, the mayor needs to be involved in or participate in. So it's there. And the same thing for the elected officials line item. That's the same. The FICA, like, as you'll see, there is a mistake there. The FICA and Medicare, the FICA was zeroed out, but the Medicare needs
So
to.
where is the stipends?
They've been moved to administration. They need
To
to.
administration,
Yes,
okay.
they're in administration under payroll, which is where they need to be, because it's a monthly paid expense.
Should the Medicare also be there then?
Well, that's what I just said. I made a mistake. That one,
Oh, okay.
strike that one out. I'll make that correction.
The Medicare line.
Yes, it should
And
be
the-
zero.
And the FICA one as well?
FICA's zero already.
Yeah, FICA's already zero.
Okay. Well, there's two FICAs. There's a,
Yes, and I don't know why there's two FICAs and two Medicares. I don't.
That's why one she crossed out because it's a duplicate, but then the other one is zeroed out.
this is actual,
Yeah, I think
Income
one was the
from
mayor,
last
one was
year, so.
council,
Oh, okay.
based on the coding, .1. That's what I would assume.
Just seems complicated, but
It,
okay.
yeah,
It was complicated.
Everything else is pretty standard. There is one line item that I'm adding in each department, that we call community outreach. And basically that is kind of a catch-all for anything in any department, or, with mayor and council. A lot of times, maybe a neighboring city has, lost an employee, or, something like that internally. We've had situations, even since I've been here, where we've sent flowers to somebody, or, there's some sort of event that we need to, for reasons of community outreach. That's what it's there for, is to it's just kind of a general pool for council. If something comes up, it doesn't fall into travel and training, and it doesn't fall into, specific expenses, anything where it involves each of you going out into the community and there's an expense incurred. That's what that line item's for. Any questions on that, Mayor and Council?
nothing.
Okay. Administration, I think the biggest increase here, and I think you'll hear me say this across the board in all departments, but at the end of the day, The biggest and the most important asset that a city has is its employees. And going through the budget, one of the most glaring things to me is that nearly every position we employ in the city of Brookshire is incredibly below market value in salaries. So in making this wayward push to kind of level up the city, we need to level up our salaries. And so you will see that there are some incredible employees that we have here at the city, and we need to reward them. We need to give them a reason to stay here and still be a part of this team. So I think the biggest increase that you'll see in administration is going to be those salaries. And just let me just kind of give you an example. We have an employee in administration who has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and we're paying her $38,000 a year. She can go down the road probably in 3 different directions and make twice that easily. And she's an incredibly valued employee. And I'm embarrassed for us as a city when I go through and I was looking at the salaries of what we pay our employees, what they make, and what they contribute to the city, because we truly have some incredible employees here.
And we have some that has long-term
Correct.
employment
Correct.
here that has not been rewarded, but
That is correct.
once again, when we try to correct that problem, it was not followed through, and we even discussed it, and nobody seemed to still hear and
Right.
move forward. So
Right.
we all should be ashamed.
And looking forward in recruiting employees, obviously salary is number one, but benefits as well. We are currently looking at making some potential changes with our health insurance because TML has, doubled? Has doubled the family and children option on the insurance, to where in some cases our employees are using one of their 2 paychecks a month to pay for their family to be on insurance. It's $1,400
Well, as a matter of fact, most of them don't choose to put their families
because
on
they can't afford
because
it.
they can't afford it.
If it's anything like TRS, I can imagine. It's unreal.
I mean, we do have Next Level Prime, which is a good option because you can get your kids vaccinated, you can do well woman exams, like you can do all of that.
All of
So
that.
that's a good option, but most of them, I went through the audit and I think there's only like 2 or 3 that have their families on the insurance plan.
And that next level that you was talking about, our employees are not made aware of that. We have found,
Right.
when that was brought to our attention, that our heads of departments has not explained
Sure.
that part.
Well, and
to
I'm
our
working
employees.
with the Texas Health. They're going to come in and they're going to spend a day here, and they're going to go to our departments and make sure everybody knows about it. Knows about, like, we have a surgery plus plan that also goes with that, where they can waive a lot of the your deductibles if you have to have a surgery. So there's some other things. So they're going to come in like next month and spend a day out here and kind of make sure that the word is spread.
And please make sure that the employees know.
Right.
Because, I mean, TML comes and sits up here for 2 hours and one
One
employee
person.
shows up.
They're going to be here for the whole day, and it'll be widespread told to everyone to come over.
And one of the things that I'm working on doing once we get the budget passed is I'm going to do package reports for every employee. So what a package report does is it actually spells out exactly what your salary is, how much the city is spending a year on your insurance, how much the city is spending a year on your retirement, and then what, as an employee, your contribution to your retirement is on a year. So at the bottom of that report, it'll give you a full package summary of, as an employee, what your package amount is, because a lot of employees don't understand how much they are contributing or how much the city is contributing to your retirement. So one of the things that does not run on a normal cycle with city budgets is our retirement plans. Our retirement plans run January to December. Currently, we're on a 2-to-1 match, which is great, but we're only middle of the road on the matching. You can choose 5, 6, or 7. So I am going to make a recommendation, and I have reflected the budget to reflect so that we change from 5% to a 6% match. And basically, that's the highest match that TMRS will allow us as a city to make. So the employee contributes 7%, the city matches at 14. And I think just
13.
13.
13.
6% match.
If they're at 7%, we would only do
Correct, but-
6%, 13 total.
Right, but I want to change it to where we go 7%,
Oh, you said 6.
because we're currently on 6. And I want to change it to where we go
You said we
to-
were at the lowest, which was 5. I'm confused now.
No, there are 3 options, 5, 6, or 7. We're in the middle at 6. I would like to propose that council move it to 7 at a 2-to-1, which would be employee contributes 7, city contributes 14. And I think that's just, again, it's when we're recruiting employees to come in, the more that we can offer, just the better position it gives us, because we're being out recruited every single day. And I think the chief we've been hustling it to recruit for police department, and these are all things that, we're talking to people about leaving counties and other cities, and they're telling us what packages they have, and, salary is not the only thing.
Right, no, I get it totally. Yeah.
So in all of these departments where it says retirement, I have factored in that 7% change from 6% to 7%. So on here, in each department, for sake of time and kind of what a mess this has been, each department has lines for insurance, workers' comp, and then insurance, liability, and property. So TML, we brought this issue to you last month. TML, we redid the audit, and that covers liability, property, workers' comp. It is a very complex document, so Ms. Molina and I haven't had a chance to go through it and break that total annual bid down by department, but we plan to do that in the next week. So for sake of making, putting the right numbers in the budget, we put the full number, which is 110,000, into administration, and we'll go back through and we'll divvy that out accordingly between the departments. It's zeroed out in the other departments for right now. But I can tell you that it was incredibly misbudgeted in the last years. Does anybody have any major issues on?
I have a couple of questions. Just, sorry. The attorney's fees, we're showing we actually spent 140,000 and we've only budgeted 100,000. That's a 33% decrease.
It
Why
is,
are we
and-
expecting that?
And maybe I'm being a little too eager, but a lot of those attorney fees have to do with employee issues. And if we hire good employees and we start, again, leveling up our employee pool, we shouldn't be needing the attorneys for employee issues.
Okay. And then under professional services, this year we've spent 309,000. We're only budgeting 150.
Yes, because we're getting rid of Encode. We're going to things that are a lot more efficient with our programs.
Just say Encode, I get it.
No, that's great.
And then the same building and maintenance, we have over 110,000, and we're dropping to 75,000.
Well, let me point out one line item to kind of answer your questions for you on this. If you look at the bank charges, we budgeted 6, but we're negative 3,000.
Uh-huh.
I don't think a bank has ever given a refund of charges.
Right.
So what's in here right now, data-wise, is so messed up still
Mm-hmm.
that it's really,
I get it. And
Just
if
cold
our answer to
steam
my
heads or
question
tails.
is simply that's misbudgeted, that's fine. I just,
It's-
these are things that jumped out at me as I was looking at it. That's
same.
all I'm asking. So 112 to 75, are we anticipating a major decrease in building maintenance?
Well, a lot of that building maintenance right now is what is in August, what was already billed for a lot of this work. So when a lot of this work gets done, then yes,
Okay.
we're hoping that it does. Our hot water heater went out. We've had AC issues, and a lot of those big things we've already corrected this year.
I would please ask to quit band-aiding these air-conditioned units that are over 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Texas. It is hot.
Mm-hmm.
And, you call them out this week and they put a Band-Aid on it and that same Band-Aid falls off the same week, and we're calling the same company that this must stop. We're spending more
Correct.
money on Band-Aids than
Correct.
the actual cost of a
Of a unit,
a
of a new unit.
And then some of these units are too small to service
The size
area.
capacity.
And I'll be
Yeah.
completely
Size of the
candid
road.
to your
Which
point.
burns them out faster.
We cannot be a governing agency and require the community to pull permits to be up to code when our building itself is not up to code.
Hey, we've been, I believe the
Preaching to the choir.
new council has addressed that. It was addressed before the new council, and everybody chose to sit back. That convention center had been proposed since like 2017 to be
Redone.
ADA compliance.
well, brought up to, everybody's hollering remodeling. People, we didn't remodel.
We
We
fixed
brought
it.
it to ADA standards
yeah.
that was brought to the previous and the previous administration a long time ago, and nobody would act on it. And it was monies that we could have used that was restricted monies anyway. And so while everybody's hollering that we're updating the convention center, we lost a lot of revenue. And clearly, I have pictures still on my phone that I'm embarrassed that we ever rented it out in the condition that it was in.
Well, it had to be remodeled due to the neglect.
ADA,
And-
yeah.
Well, not just the ADA, the neglect, the leaks that were drywalls falling down all over the place, so. If it had been fixed, to your
Wallpaper
point,
off
in
of-
2017,
Hello.
you know, but anyway.
So I have one last question before we go out of administration, and this will apply to a number of the different reports, I'm sure. But again, prior to my time on council, but while sitting here, I heard discussion from a presentation on our health insurance that the gentleman that was here representing told the city council that employees could take their families to a physician, even if their families were not currently being paid for
That
as
was
covered.
what she just.
That's what we just talked about.
alluded
The
to,
prime.
The
That's the
prime.
next level prime.
Okay, so we have that.
Yes.
So would that be why they're not putting their children on, because if they're already covered?
No, what
No,
she's saying is
it's
that I
'cause
don't think
it's
they're
so
aware of the
expensive.
benefits that they actually get. And so if he's gonna set up
But
a workshop.
I will say one of the points of feedback as we heard is, yes, it's a great service, but what if my child has to be hospitalized? They don't have insurance. So the next level option is great, but I think there's a lot of parents that are still concerned that if their child has to have a surgery or is hospitalized, going without insurance is, that's a big deal for them. And when it's costing a family and children, a spouse and children almost $1,400,
Sure.
they just simply can't afford it.
Are there other risk pools that we could join?
Yes, Eric and I have been reaching out, and it's apparently an issue this year because TML almost doubled their prices, and it's really hit a lot of cities hard, and it put cities in a very kind of last minute predicament, because they didn't give us much time. And so Erica has reached out to several people across the state, other city secretaries, and they're in the same process as we are.
Are we obligated to use the government pool, or can we go through private insurance?
No, you can go through, I thought that I was under the impression that you had to, but apparently that's not the case anymore. So a lot of people are going out to bid.
Yeah. Because I know my first school district I worked at, they said to heck with TRS, and they went with a private through, I think, either Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it was so much cheaper.
They're seeing huge savings, like half,
Well, and I think to the point too, like that district had a much higher retention of teachers than some of the other districts I've seen. And like you said, it's not just your salary, your benefits weigh into your decision to stay or leave. And
I know when I went for the new councilman orientation, the risk pool was there giving a presentation, and they even mentioned there that they said they recognized that this was a problem, and that I believe they are actually trying to figure out a way to address it as well.
Well,
So-
the issue for them is a lot of the reinsurers went out of business this last 2 years. And so they increased about 15% this year,
Right.
systemically insurance industry wide. And so for a risk pool, the fewer options you have to reinsure, they have to pass those fees down the line, which is where we're at.
Could we offer a secondary insurance too in lieu of TML?
I'm sure that's something we could look into. I'm not going to say no because I don't know the answer, but that's definitely something we can look into.
Just put that on your to-do list. I mean, I'm sure it's not very long.
No, and we know it's an issue again when
That was
when
a
we're
joke.
when we're trying to recruit, quality employees, when we keep hearing the same thing over and over, it's clearly an issue, and we don't want to lose the recruiting battle of good employees to bring to the city over something that is so easily fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Only last question I have, the appraisal district fees dropped roughly,
Well, because they weren't accurate to begin with.
okay,
Same thing with elections. We've never spent $60,000 in
I wondered
elections in a
about
year.
that one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so same thing.
Yeah, we bought cookies for the work.
It's about $7,000 something, right?
Can I ask a question? There's a special events under administration, and there's special events in,
Keep Brookshire Beautiful,
yes,
2 different things.
okay.
And then we also have special events under the hotel motel. So hotel motel, we're basically keeping the same. So the events that you have been doing over the past couple of years, they have $12,000
There you
in
go.
each of the accounts.
Question.
We're keeping that the same. The reason that that is not in here is because, again, we don't know the revenue in hotel motel.
Okay.
So it hasn't been
Can
entered.
I ask
But
you,
yes, the budgeted amounts are the same.
did you ever do the workup on festivals?
I do. I have a spreadsheet I've put together on all of them.
And were we,
We need to schedule it for a future council meeting to go through.
well,
Absolutely.
just a simple question. Were some festivals over and others under, or did we?
It was pretty uniform. There was one that was slightly over, but it wasn't enough to be a big
A
deal.
red flag?
No.
And we
Couple
are
dollars.
working on, this is a question, we are working on what the list of
Applicable,
items can be used
applicable
for,
items, yes.
EDC, because
Mhm.
that was brought up, that was
So Amanda, to answer your
assigned and
question,
never got taken
Councilman
care of.
Neuendorf,
I don't care.
to answer your question on administration special events, so let's say we have, we'll have, in October, we'll have the swearing in of the chief and some new police officers, and we have, a special event here. We'll use that money for that. But like the events that y'all are coordinating throughout the year, the $12,000 that's coming out of hotel motel, that's completely different. Those are established, like, specific events, like
Gotcha.
named events. So that's
Like
the
multiple
difference.
flavors of cake.
So these, so this special event, what was the example you just gave?
Like, we'll have, during a council meeting, we'll have swearing in of the officers. We do like a cake,
Oh,
or
right,
we do
okay,
something
okay.
nice like that, we'll line item that under special event for administration. Or like, once we get done with the renovations, we might have like an afternoon
Take your
open
cake home.
house, like come
Got it,
by and have,
Take your cake home.
coffee and cake or
Right, so we
whatever.
did the National Day of Prayer or something. and it had
Correct,
cookies and
something like
coffee
that.
or
That's just
something.
a
Okay.
small, like a minor special event that is not, it's not a big to-do. It's not like, the Cinco de Mayo or anything like that.
Right,
That's a
right, right.
named event, but there's enough money in there that administration, we can float that event, something minor.
While it's on my mind, and this is not budgeted, we have access to that digital billboard that's on
Oh.
ITN,
That's why y'all keep.
that we can
Advertised?
advertise our city events or
Mm-hmm.
special occasions
You gotta get that wheel.
at free of charge. That is never,
Well, when everybody gets their headshots back, we can put it on I-10, meet
no, thank you.
Councilman Branch.
Can Target
That's me, I can't do it all.
Okay, any more questions on,
No, ma'am.
okay, going on to Public Works, again, the salaries in Public Works, this was one that was,
Horrific.
I'll be honest, very,
Absolutely.
Embarrassing.
very near and dear
Horrific.
to my heart, because we have some incredible Public Works guys
Yep.
who have been here 10 to
10,
18 years, and I'll be honest, one of our guys is, you could ask him to do anything and he would give 24 hours a day to this city, and we have not been rewarding him the way that we should have. So that was very, very important to me. If you go to the payroll report in the back, you'll see that I have significantly bumped up these employees. It's almost to market. It's not quite at market, but it's enough to where I can bump them up, and then next year we can do merit raises to get them up to a competitive market value. Now, one thing that we are going to start doing across the city is creating an employee evaluation program that we will administer evaluations throughout the year. We'll check in once a quarter, and then we'll administer merit increases based on the performance evaluations at the end of the year, and it'll be a sliding scale. But again, we have added in, I've spoke to you about it before, we've added in a new position of a mechanic. And we're hoping to find a mechanic that can help service both PD vehicles and Public Works vehicles as well as equipment. So you will see, again, if you go back to the payroll report, you will see where,
How's that going to work, Ms. Ward? Because are we building a lift for them to be able to do tire rotations, oil changes? They can't just jack up a car and do a
correct.
tire.
And some of a lot of the maintenance work that we need mechanic wise is more equipment right now. With our tractors and some of our equipment, and we have been talking to some people that can come in and do that, but then they can do basic stuff on vehicles. Some of that has changed within the last week because we've gotten the contract with Brookshire Hyundai, and that has changed drastically.
Thank you.
But we want to put it in there and keep it in there because as we are upgrading, again, I want to stress the importance of having a functioning fleet management program. As we're investing in equipment and in vehicles, we need to be taking care of them and putting them on a maintenance program.
Just like the ACs.
Correct. And so we have a lot of equipment out at Public Works that is 30 years old.
We have a brand new grade all that has probably less than
Technically 3 years old.
hours. It might look old, but it has
It's not.
no hours
Right.
on it. And it needs to be implemented yesterday or sold.
Correct.
We've been told that when we bought the Great All, it was going to replace the, I don't know if you call it a skid steer or a baby
Yeah,
excavator or whatever.
it was too
I
small
could-
in the first place.
I could use a tablespoon at my house and get more dirt out of a ditch
Right.
than that. But that's what we're still using after the council seen fit to spend $500,000 on a Great Hall and bought extra equipment to reach out these arms and that arms to make it convenient.
Right.
And it's not being utilized. If we're not gonna utilize what we've worked for to give you to be able to
Right.
do your job more efficiently, hey,
Well, and one thing that I think you will see changing on the Public Works side is that the Public Works crew, we're going to split it into two subcategories, a parks crew and then a roads and drainage crew. We have two people that will be kind of like the supervisors over each of those crews. It will be Frank over roads and drainage, and then Tal will be over parks. And so we have two open positions, a CDL driver that will go back and forth, and we have another open position that we will fill more on the park side. So that what we are paying monthly in contract maintenance work to maintain the city can pay for actually 3 employees.
That's what I was gonna ask. I mean, if we have the departments,
Correct.
the parks crew should also be able to take care of public space
Correct, and
mowing
that's the
and
intent, is to
landscaping.
manage landscaping and mowing
Perfect.
of public and park spaces.
Eliminate
And then,
contracts.
and then really kind of put them on a rotational basis, like Monday through Thursday, they are dedicated, and on Monday and Tuesday, they do Hovis Park, and on Wednesday and Thursday, this is what they do, and this is how they record it, so every single week, it's the same rotation. We typically use Friday open for kind of like a free day, to where if parks needs help,
Care of
then
whatever.
yeah, or if drainage needs help, they kind of go back and forth, or if it's a maintenance day for equipment. Then you're not a dog chasing its tail all over the city and nobody knows what's going on and we haven't gotten anything accomplished and where are we starting on Monday? It puts us in a schedule and the guys everything becomes tangible. And I think that's the biggest thing for our constituents is to see that Public Works is out there and there's tangible projects that are being completed. So to Ms. Branch's point, when it comes to drainage and culverts, one of our focus areas in this next year is going to be really revitalizing the culvert program. And we have a specific company that we can get the culverts at a much cost equitable price than what we are purchasing, and kind of reinitiate that program so that the public knows what that culvert program is and how it works. Basically, if they buy the culvert, we come in and we install it, and it's a cost share program. On the drainage, we're out right now for RFQs with engineering. Engineering will do a full assessment with survey shooting of drainage throughout the city. We can put that in a map, a GIS map that the guys can use. They can go around the city, and we can quadrant the city down or put the city into districts and say, okay, in January we're doing this area. And then I've already let Public Works know kind of how this is going to work. Then at the end of the month, we're going to have a progress report of what was the attempted area, how much got completed, and then where you're starting on the next month. So it should take us a little over a year to do the entire city, so that when you finish that rotation, guess what? The new budget year's starting and we get to do it all over again.
I'm sure that you fainted when you seen the landscaping, but we actually had great intentions. Our intentions was to have those ditches and dug and
Right.
those culverts replaced.
Right.
Because we freed them up
Free 'em
from
up time.
having to mow.
Correct.
The intention was great.
Right. So under equipment on,
They're still mowing in Brookshire.
under capital outlay equipment, this will be,
Mowing dirt
Yeah.
now.
this will be our final year payment for the Gradall. And our two pieces of equipment this year are to pay off the Gradall and then purchase, a new tractor. So we've got 3 tractors that are going to auction, and then we'll be purchasing a new cab tractor to add to the fleet this year.
From now on, Kim, I know they'll make Mayor Branch happy. Can we make sure that we get cab tractors? We've asked, I said it'd make you happy. It's not only just for air conditioning. Those guys hit them ground bumblebees, and I know of a couple of guys that has severe allergic reactions to that. We should not take that chance.
Right.
So,
And one thing that Public Works is doing right now, we have gotten, as you can see, just citywide, doing just a much needed clean out. And Public Works is doing that as well. We've got 6 vehicles, 3 tractors, and a handful of implements that will be taking to auction and selling. They've been cleaning up the grounds out there, cleaning out the buildings. We have dozens and dozens of tires that they have loaded up that we're getting hauled off, and we're really trying to clean everything up. One, so we know what we have, and we can make room for new stuff that's coming in. But 2, just kind of like reorganize everything to get, kind of start fresh.
when we go to TML, I believe year before last, we spoke to a company that repurposes the tires, in the city and reuses it for like bedding for,
Playground equipment sometimes too.
Yeah,
playground,
yeah.
playground equipment. Potholes, but I'm sure we don't have any potholes in there.
Does anybody have any questions on Public Works?
I have a couple for you.
Okay.
One of the things that's been discussed is that we have had an issue keeping employees here because we've hired folks that have not been physically capable of doing the work. And we had talked about instituting a physical exam process for new hires. I don't see a line item for that.
We can add that.
I saw it with the police department, I didn't see it on
Yes.
Public Works.
We can add that. We can certainly add that.
Okay?
And I
And-
will say, another thing that we are going to be doing is starting to implement random drug tests.
Absolutely.
Good.
Good.
Supposed to been happening years ago.
And then I noticed that the garbage pickup contract is zeroed out, and that's because we are no longer going to be paying anybody.
Correct.
The citizens will be paying directly to
Directly.
the company, so we are out of the middleman position.
The only payment that you will see exchanged between a trash hauler and the city is monthly franchise fees, which would be reflected on the revenue side.
Well, and then, of course, our own bill for the city, right? Because we need trash pickup.
That's written into the contract. Yes, it will, but a lot of times it's a write-off.
Okay, and then we do a cleanup day. Is that
We actually
Budget for it.
wrote that, you mean as far as like
a cost
pickup?
to us? Yeah.
No, we wrote that into the contract, that
Okay,
that
awesome.
would be a donation
Yeah,
amount.
unfortunately, I haven't seen that RFP, so I don't know what all's in it, but, and then, the Hovis Park expenses, we've only got it at 15,000. This year, we're already at 35,000. And I know there's a lot of expense in the maintenance of this silly AstroTurf field we got?
And it's a mess. I'll be completely honest. It's a total mess. But we're also working with EDC to kind of come to a fixable solution for what that's going to look like. So I think EDC, because that would be, it continues to be a big project for them, that's something that they're entertaining working with us on.
Okay, so you feel the 15,000 is going to be adequate?
For now, yes.
You're not inspiring me with confidence sometimes. That's okay.
This also goes back though, because there were several, it was probably about a year ago whenever we were looking at invoices and reports, and there were several different expenses that were submitted from the Public Works Department, and it just kept saying Hovis Park, and I kept saying, what is the project that we're working on right now at Hovis Park? Because we're seeing a ton of expenses coming in, but we didn't know that there was any, we didn't know what they were for. And a lot of it was requests that were being made by specific organizations that were basically going through Mr. Kelly instead of coming before council. So that needs to be nipped.
Or being taken care of in a facility lease agreement.
Correct. Under travel and training, is that opportunities for individuals to possibly get higher certifications in order to become more qualified in their position?
So there is one, I would love for one of our guys to get their pesticide license, so that we can do that. That's a training program, but then there are also some great training programs out there where they will actually come to us and they will train the guys on safety, and then safety issues with equipment. And then our insurance company actually does free trainings as well. So we're gonna look at trying to do different training programs. One of the things that I did bring up with the mayor that I have done in previous cities with my public works crews is a safety reward program, and we put it under travel and training. And starting October 1st, we'll start logging how many days, risk assessed did we go without an injury or without some sort of on-the-job sickness. And at the end of the year, if we go a whole year, then, I would take them out to lunch or give them a $25 gift card, something of that nature. And we put it under travel and training because if it's all about setting our employees up to be successful. The better we set them up for success, the better the end result is in the output that they give the city. So those are the different types of training kind of in reimbursement programs we want to have for our employees. We want to give them the tools to be successful.
I'm just a fan of taking care of our employees too and helping them build their skills and their resume. And if they don't stay with us forever, then they can go somewhere else and be successful too.
I agree.
I believe that there's probably a couple of guys that's interested in getting their CDLs already at Public Works that has just not been offered
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've added a Public Works community outreach line item, but it's zero.
Yes, I put it in there, but I didn't really think in this first year we'd need anything. And plus, we're kind of feeling for I put it in every department,
Oh,
but I
okay.
didn't know that
Okay.
there was really.
I just thought it was odd that it was an ad, but it was a zero budget, so, okay.
Well, and you have to understand that when we transition to FundView, a lot of these, they're called cost codes, will be the same in each department. And if you add it, it's going to show up in every department. Doesn't mean that you have to have
Put money
it
in it.
anywhere. There's another cost code that's not even in here that we'll talk about in a second, is we have nothing in our entire budget allocated to emergency management. And that, to be quite honest,
We've discussed that for a
is a
year.
completely different department in itself that needs to be created, but it's never been created. Now we have, when we get to the balance sheet, I'll go over, we have a variance amount in order to successfully balance the budget, but I'm kind of letting that sit right there until we actually correctly set up our cost codes and what our chart of accounts actually looks like, because right now it's not set up correctly. I don't know any other way to say it.
Two quick observations, and this doesn't have to be discussed. The telephone and internet at Public Works, we're paying almost the same as what we're paying for City Hall. So if we can find some way to reduce
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
And then technology, the 5,000, what are you forecasting that potentially is?
So, quite frankly, with the purchase of new trucks and new vehicles, we'd like to utilize the FirstNet system to put GPS tracking in all of the trucks and the vehicles. So that's what that line item is for.
Sure, okay.
What was that for?
GPS tracking on
like
trucks?
technology tracking in our vehicles. And there are some, FirstNet does offer some really neat programs for our public works vehicles. One of the technology things that I've talked about with the crew, is we have no radios at all for our guys to communicate when they're out. So, possibly looking at radios, but really equipping our equipment and our trucks with GPS and tracking and FirstNet communication.
Okay, thank you.
Police department. Like I said, this is the one that I think is getting the most love this year, and it's the most overdue, if I say so myself. You will see a lot of red lines on here, and this is because these are accounts that we're eliminating. Mayor, I think you were the one that told me that these were set up because we had code enforcement under
Under
Public
PD.
Works, and we're not utilizing all of these separate accounts for code enforcement. So we're just outright eliminating them. Again, the biggest difference here is salaries on PD. We have had a real, one, recruiting issue, and two, compression issue. We are nowhere in the realm for recruiting based on our salaries in PD. And we don't want to be there anymore. We need to make those corrections. And like I said, these were not just arbitrary numbers that we pulled out. A lot of these numbers were found in comparing cities of our size in the Houston area through HGAC. They do a huge salary survey, and it comes about this thick. I think one of the things that you'll see is on dispatch. I don't know about y'all, but I get really embarrassed when I see it posting out hiring for dispatchers, and we're paying $34,000 a year.
And there's people who are commenting under those posts who are.
Right,
Waller
people are
County.
commenting and saying, how can anybody make a living?
That was a
So,
Waller County sheriff who posted that.
Again, when I talk about compression within the police department, I'm not only talking about compression with the dollar amount for the positions that we have, but compression in that is we're trying to backfill 6 new patrol officers in our department, which when you add more patrol, you're putting more work on the dispatchers. So we're compressing those two entities together, but we're telling them, come work for us. We've got 10 officers, but we're only going to pay you $34,000 a year. It doesn't make sense.
I think that with the new chief, that you'll realize that it's a scheduling issue, and we've had to beg people to do their job, to become in compliance. We've had to go to uniforms. It's
That's citywide.
it's
Had to beg people
not
to do their jobs.
just because we're neglecting.
Sure.
All we've ever asked was employees to come in and do their jobs and go home.
Well, and let me be very clear.
And
Not just in police.
I do understand that's a hard job.
Well, and like I said, let me be very clear. When we're talking about leveling up the city and the salaries, that does not come as we're going to give you an increase. Thank you for being here. We're going to give you an increase, but the standards have now changed. The standards have now increased, and you can either meet the expectations or we wish you luck in your next endeavor. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to decompressing some of these things within some of these departments and raising the pay. It's not congratulations.
I'm not
right.
Here's a
for
bonus.
rewarding bad behavior.
No,
And
absolutely not.
it's not just the police department, and I don't want to scare you, Chief Hines.
Oh no, we've
Don't.
had very open conversations about this. And he obviously has a better pulse on what the going recruiting rates are than I do. I mean, I can look it up and I can talk to other cities, and I have a statewide network of what those salaries are, but he's the boots on the ground talking to people and kind of saying that yes, this is a livable salary, competitive salary. And I will say we will have some new employees starting in the police department, and I think you will start to see an incredible change in the department with the quality of employees that we are going to be recruiting. I mean, to be quite honest, it makes me really excited. We have some really exciting things coming. But like I said, when it comes to dispatch, this is not thanks for being here, we're giving you a raise. There's a whole new level of expectations that are now going to be expected of you, and this is what they are. And I think the chief has been very clear on what his standard of care and level of expectations are. And if you can't meet that, then, like I said, we wish you well.
Well, and for the rest of council, and this is before our administrator, new city secretary's time, when we discussed raising police pay, and we kind of forecast out for 2023, 2024, if you'll remember, that spreadsheet I put together was at 1.8 million.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that Ms. Ward came up with essentially the same numbers that I forecasted needed to be at.
I
So
assume she just used yours, actually.
she did not.
No.
I will say she did not. So
And I will say one thing on the payroll report that I do want you to notice is that under the police department, we have 6 open patrol positions. So we are going to try our hardest to fill those patrol positions. But there's an additional 5 that we have that is what is recommended to be fully staffed within our department. I don't want to remove those from the budget. So what I have simply done is leave them in the budget, but I have notated them as being frozen. So with them being frozen, it's still a tangible item that council and the community can see. Yes, those are still a priority to us. It's just we are freezing them financially for the next year. We're gonna fill these 6. We're gonna reevaluate, let the chief evaluate, and then as he needs to going forward in the subsequent years, we can unfreeze those to meet the demands that we have. Because the worst thing you can do is cut those, have a council turnover, and then the new council not understand that this was the original intended amount of officers that we needed, in our city. A couple of items to notate, and Chief can chime in on these as well. You will see we have increased, we did reflect this, Councilman, the medical exams in PD, and then we have one of the increases that you'll see is uniforms. So, interesting story on uniforms. We found out that officers were told they could go and purchase any uniform they wanted.
Oh, no.
So we did not have a uniform policy. So the chief has gone and we have selected an official uniform. It's you probably won't even notice the difference. But we had some officers that weren't even wearing shirts that had their name or Brookshire Police Department on them.
Oh, my.
Yes.
They were purchasing their own?
Yes.
With the city's money. Back in the day,
Their own style.
Their own style.
their own, yeah.
I would say they were freelancing.
Correct.
Back in the day, which I think was very
So unprofessional.
rude of the city, the police officers had to buy their own bulletproof vest, and they got 2 short sleeve shirts, 1 long sleeve shirt, and Brett, correct me, it was only 2 pairs of
2
pants
pairs of
or
pants?
3? 3 pairs of pants. And if you wanted any more, you had to come out of your pocket. Well, either your dry cleaning bill is very expensive that they didn't pay for, and you're coming home doing a turnaround, but you're having to wash a uniform in order to look
Doing laundry every other
professional.
day.
And I hope that that is corrected and not making our officers spend the money that we gave them raises. I mean, I'm not saying give them 5 short sleeve shirts, 5 long sleeve
No, I think we
shirts,
did
and 10
3.
pairs of pants, but
3, 3, and 1 to get them started. 3 pairs of pants, 3 short sleeve, and a long sleeve. We'll leave it open to add another long sleeve depending on
Yeah.
what the winter might be like. But that's kind of a standard across the board, and our personnel are working 410s. So, some people can wear another pair of pants, 2 days in a row, and that gets them 3 days to go home and wash. The other thing that I thought was, the shirts come embroidered with a name, and on the shirt. So I changed it to where, because of the turnover,
nameplates.
I think that's gonna change in time, but, we're gonna have nameplates and patches, name patches on the uniform. They're-
Velcro.
Yeah, Velcro off and on.
Yeah, just rip them off and put the next one.
Another thing that we found out is that we have not been providing the duty rigs for each officer. So we had
Never have.
we had officers that, I mean, it was a very mixed matched. I mean, we literally pulled 3 officers on duty into the office and looked at them, and no 3 were the same.
You have flat black, you have basket weave, and then you have nylon.
Nylon.
So, we're going with basket weave.
Which is more durable, more expensive, but more durable.
More
Do we
classic.
agree?
I was about to say, it was more classic.
So that's why you see the increase on the uniform line. We're going to truly be uniforming our uniforms. Another thing that will be included in that price is we will be redoing the badges this year. And what?
Every time we look up, we redo a badge, but why would this chief be any different than any other?
Well, one of
That
the,
doesn't mean bad to you, chief. We've just changed badges 3 times.
More than that.
well, we were having a really, it was really hard understanding like what was our patch, because when you walk through PD, there's 6
4.
different patches on the wall, and you ask who, depending on who you ask, is what patch is the current patch.
The one with the red on it, right?
But there's 6 different iterations of that same
Of it
patch.
in PD.
That's because back when, I'm missing his name, certain officer was there, he kept changing them. And I
Right.
allowed that.
So again, I think the theme is we're going to be uniforming everything.
I don't know
Should- I mean,
where
it should be
red
just one
even
basic
came
patch and be done
in,
with it.
but
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
'Cause we had-
design your new
Back in
badge
the
or
day,
your
we
new
had some of the
So,
old fashioned. had
You will
patch
see
on
building and
flag on
equipment,
the other side.
building maintenance and equipment maintenance. Again, if we don't take care of the building, nobody else is gonna take care of it for us, and we've just and I'll take ownership for it. We have not taken care of the building, and we need to. So we're going to put some, substantial amount of money in it this year. I mean, we're not even ADA accessible to get in the front door.
And we've got 65,000 in vehicle maintenance. I thought we hired the lease we had was gonna take care of. still
Yes,
have
so
some-
it's just to be able to separate it out. It will be billed separately. So it's included in our monthly price. It'll just be billed separately.
Okay.
But there will still be like 6 units. that
Yes,
are
there's still
part of
6
that.
units that are not included in that program. So under where you'll see vehicles, we have 300,000. That'll be the 160 for our vehicles, and then that number will go down next year because remember the new vehicles we have to upfit, and we will be rewrapping all of the vehicles again so that they all look the same.
We
don't
said that
have-
all the upfitting we own.
Correct, we own that, yes, and it's about $20,000 per vehicle for the upfitting, and that's lights, camera,
Right.
radar, computer.
Cages and
Cages,
computer
yes.
mounts, okay.
Mhm, yes. Any questions on PD?
I know we're going to relook all this in January. I'd like to see the community outreach potentially doubled. I'd like you to look at doing coffee with a cop and stuff like that, kind of on a regular basis.
And I
to
will say,
engage the community.
we have the means to double that now if you want
Yep.
to.
I mean, I think it would be a good move. I don't know, we haven't had that discussion at all.
You could put
We've only
20
talked about, what,
$20,000
4
in
times now?
community.
Yes. I'm thinking coffee with a cop, there's the Christmas events, there's,
National Night Out.
National Night Out, this back to school drive.
We've also talked about doing an annual Touch a Truck where it can be a multi-agency event hosted by Brookshire, but include the ESDs, DPS, the county agencies, basically kind of an off-time year National Night Out type event.
I have no problem with doubling that and doing more community outreach for our police department. I think it's going to be very important this year, especially to get our officers in front of the public and say, hey, there's a new sheriff in town.
Anything else? The last one is municipal court, and honestly, municipal court stays pretty static. I mean, it's kind of a well-oiled machine. There's not a whole lot. I don't know that there's really many changes here.
Miss Ward,
Yes.
I know that at one time there was a difference in the judges and the prosecutor's
yes.
salary. I hope that we at least match them, because, not to mention any names, but our prosecutor does a lot of homework. Not that that's not her
Sure.
job, but,
And I
she
don't really
does a lot of-
understand, I mean, I have asked, and Sherry doesn't really know either, why our prosecutor is paid in a line item and not in payroll.
She asked for it to be that way, and I
To
will try.
because she wants to 1099.
Yes,
Okay,
I'll
got it.
try to explain
Okay.
that to you.
I will, I did not change that number, but I can definitely look at it, because it was, I know it's that one and the judge are contractual positions, so I
Yes,
can.
and if we could, because she does have to prepare,
Sure.
uh,
So
and
you want the
like-
prosecutor and the judge to be the same?
no, I didn't say
Oh.
that, I just
I was like, 'cause
said,
that's a,
please look at the difference.
gotcha.
Let's put it this way, I think that the prosecutor is underpaid for
Okay.
the amount of
Sure.
work that she does, and we discussed this in last year's budget, and it was supposed to be taken care of, and like everything
And again,
else,
if we
it
have
didn't.
somebody that we really like, I mean, we want to, we don't want to.
They're local, they've been efficient.
Sure,
I don't see why we can't make that happen.
not a problem. Not a problem.
I would just love to say also for public record that there was a lot of things that were discussed for last year's budget, but we were presented a budget on the day that it was the deadline, and our city secretary was not present to make changes, and so therefore we were forced to approve what we were given, so.
Well, I
we
will
were
tell you-
forced to do the whole budget because our city secretary didn't do the tax.
I will tell you, one of the first things that I noticed was that the approved budget was not.
was
Which was not Miss Molina.
I will tell you, one of the first things that I noticed when going through, the reason why it's in a document like this and not in the Encode format is because the approved budget was different than the budget that was put into our Encode system, like vastly different.
Perfect.
So,
I love hearing things
to
like
be
that.
quite honest, I don't really know which one we were going off of, but I wanted to put it here so you could see that there was a discrepancy between those two, and why I then made the request column. Now, I will say, you will see when it comes to employees, there is a difference in the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment. There is a difference in the COLA between administrative employees and police department employees. That's because administrative employees last year got 0 COLA, but the police department got a COLA that I was told council did not even approve.
A what?
Cost of living.
Cost of living adjustment, we didn't
Adjustment.
approve one last year.
Right. So, I have tried to kind of offset that, and, administration they're going to be getting 3%, and police department's gonna be getting 2%.
I hate to bring up skeletons in our closet, but it was quite embarrassing when the council, and not this council, let me reiterate, not this council, but had hazard pay for COVID. Not that I personally voted for hazard pay, but it was very embarrassing to find out that every employee didn't get hazard pay. And when it was brought to my attention and I asked the council, I knew the answer to the question, that all employees were supposed to get it. It cost the city a substantial amount to go back and pay those employees. And it's very embarrassing that we don't treat everyone the same.
Sure.
Yes, they work in different departments.
Doesn't matter.
Some works
Right.
harder than others, but
Right.
I think that you reiterated a plan that you're not getting a raise, you're
being-
getting paid for doing a job, and the expectations
Or changing.
will
Right.
be expected.
So the last department on here was previously our youth advisory, which we were not utilizing. So I am I am recommending keeping that account in place, but actually changing that to our Keep Brookshire Beautiful. And we will become an affiliate of Keep Texas Beautiful and Keep America Beautiful. That is a really great organization, and there's a substantial amount of funds available through TxDOT as an affiliate of Keep Texas Beautiful, but it's also a great mechanism to get the community involved in different types of community engagement, community beautification projects. And a lot of cities, through their beautification groups, have youth advisory commissions underneath them. And while I think that's a great mechanism, I don't think we're there yet. I'd like to spend the next year establishing a Keep Brookshire Beautiful board of 7 to 9 members with a council liaison, and identifying projects throughout the city, whether it be beautification or trash cleanup, tire recycling. There's programs that you can do at the school for waste in place and trash art. It's really a pretty phenomenal organization on both the state and federal level. So basically, I took what was already in that youth advisory commission that we weren't using but was being budgeted, and just transformed that into the Keep Brookshire Beautiful budget.
Good job.
So what are the uniforms?
Like apparel, shirts.
Just a polo shirt or something for the committee,
Yeah.
okay?
And
What is,
to be quite honest, when we change the cost codes, the word uniform will be taken out and it'll be replaced with promotional and apparel. That's a more appropriate term for that.
and then the membership of 6,000, that's to join the Keep Texas Beautiful Association?
There's two
and then
organizations. There's the
America, right?
state and the Keep America.
And then the travel and training for 12,000?
Yes, so there is an annual state conference, and in order to, there's pre-training sessions at those conferences, and a lot of them have to do with the grant writing that has to go for the Governor's
Perfect.
Community Achievement, so that's kind of why that was in there.
Perfect.
And that can be for somebody on the board, or it can be for a staff member. I mean, we've got several, we've got Miss Glover, who is wonderful at working with our grant companies, that this is something that would be great for her to kind of like put in her wheelhouse. And I have no problem sending her to trainings to get more educated on the grant writing process.
I was just fixing to say, have we look into doing our own grant writing?
Yes, and I actually, with Councilman Hill, I actually had this question because he asked me about, is it really worth having an in-house grant writer? And my initial response has been no, because the grant cycles are it's not a static process. You may have one year, like last year was a huge grant year for the state of Texas because you had CARES, you had ARPA, and you had a lot of GLO MIT-MOD projects. This year, we haven't seen that many released. So the cycle changes. It doesn't stay static. So if you have somebody on staff, I'm not saying that they won't have anything to do, but you're going to go through very low phases of workloads. And there are some really great grant writing administrators out there, and the way that they are paid is a percentage, an administrative fee in the grant. So that's built into the grant price. So I think right now, for where we're at, I think it makes a lot more sense to just do the contract work with a grant administrator versus having somebody on staff. Plus, you're not obligated to pay, insurance and retirement.
Did we do a contract with Grant Works?
I think you did, but the
Each
way
grant?
that it is started now is that with each individual grant, you have to put out an individual RFQ for a grant administrator for each grant. It used to be that you could secure somebody for a term and they could hit multiple grants. Now, especially with the state, they're requiring an RFQ for each individual grant to have an administrator.
While we're speaking of grants, and there are people that actually do watch these city council meetings, could you explain that this is a grant that is
Yes.
fixing the sidewalk?
It is. I don't know the specifics just because this was a lot, much more time before I was here, but
It was
That's
approved.
this is a
Winter.
grant, and I will be
It was approved in the
very
spring.
open with council. They have not communicated with us well on the schedule. They basically showed up on Friday
I
and
noticed that.
started jackhammering the parking lot, and we were like, what is going on? We had no idea.
It is a CDBG for downtown
Correct.
revitalization.
Yes.
It was the sidewalks
And
grant that we
did
approved
vote
in the
for that
spring.
grant,
But-
I mean,
We did.
But what we found.
we didn't
But
vote
no,
for.
the public perception is that the city is spending money doing it, and
Right.
it's not the city
That's
spending
why.
And
money.
there's gonna be a
It's a
post
grant.
tomorrow, a Facebook post tomorrow that tells what it is and
Okay.
that it's a grant and that kind of, and it should post in the morning.
I was wondering, it was all of a
I sent
sudden-
pictures to the social media person today. I was like, please send a note out because I know people are driving by going, what is going on?
Yeah.
But we did find out today that the scope of work is different than what we had thought.
Which was brought to our attention not that long ago, actually, in a meeting.
And it was supposed to be addressed, right?
Well, no, it was, I don't know, because whenever they made their initial presentation, they made it sound like there was gonna be sidewalks going all the way to 90, and then all the way to here, and then from one end to the other.
So we
Because
have-
at first they were saying that they were gonna do a long 90, and we said, what's the point in doing a long 90 when TxDOT's about to rip it all up and redo it in 2 years?
So when we talked to her today, Ms. Glover and I had a call with her with GrantWorks. She said that the scope of the work was changed because of the pandemic
Ugh.
and material costs. And so basically,
The
that's
pandemic.
what I'm just telling you.
But we just approved the grant
We
like
just
we
approved-
just approved it like
Never
6
mind.
months ago.
I'm just telling you
I'm
what
good.
she said.
Okay.
I'm good.
And so she sent us an updated map, which Ms. Glover is going to send out to council so that you can see. But it's basically just this side of Fifth Street. And although they did tear up the bricks over across the street
Yeah,
from
they
the
did.
Donegan house.
Yeah, they did.
So we have to do a little bit of clarifying with what's going on. They were also supposed to leave access to the building, and which
They
they
did
did not. So there's a lot of issues with that.
So they are not doing the other side where we currently have no sidewalks.
Correct.
They're just gonna
EDC
jackhammer the existing ones.
The EDC is looking at that as a potential project for them.
And we didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, the communication has not been wonderful at all.
Would y'all please, in the release, reiterate that our drive-through window is still, undoubtedly it's gonna become more important till they fix this, but that it is still operational and available to the public.
We will.
2 Pepsi.
Okay, and then the last page, you'll see departmental balances, and basically it shows that our revenue amounts are 9.3 million and our total expenses are 8.1 million. So that gives us an adjustment balance of 1.2. And my recommendation is I'm going to float that in an adjustment line item of 1.2. And when we get the budget ironed out, with correct cost centers and cost codes, we can allocate that accordingly. Because I'll be quite honest, I mean, there's some stuff that we still don't know. I mean, I've been trying for
Absolutely.
2 weeks to get clarification on what's going on, what are we paying here. I am very confident in our expenses. I am fairly certain on our revenues. If anything, our revenues would increase, not decrease. I've been very conservative on that, but on the expenses, I'm pretty confident. So this is not a situation of where I think, you know, we could fall into a deficit. We're not there. So
I will say that when I was running a $73 million SBCG grant for the state of California, we had less than $1 million adjustment line.
yeah.
That's huge. 73 million?
Oh, 73 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in all, I think just the general consensus of this year's budget is, it's time that we put back into our employees, and, I think that we have a good plan going forward, and I think that we have some good employees that we need to sink some investment back into.
So I just have a couple questions about this, and it's mostly just, so Lupe is showing up as a court assistant? Is that how we're coding?
So currently, he is in code enforcement, and we need to hire a third person in courts. And when Lupe originally applied at the city, he has a lot of administrative background. He previously worked for an insurance company. So we have decided to move him over to courts and essentially hire a contract code enforcement company, which a lot of cities have started to do.
So would that be under professional services and
Professional
admin?
services, yes,
Okay.
it's factored into professional services. And so basically, his salary, nothing's changing, he's just sliding over into courts. So
Okay.
although his salary has not been in courts before, it's just moving from one and sliding it so that the bottom end balance works.
Okay.
And Sherry just filed over 700 warrants, which equals, like I told you on the last council meeting, about $620,000. So, and I say that in there are still more outstanding warrants, but Sherry as one person can only do so much in finding those outstanding warrants. And especially when they're having to break and come over for court, like that's a huge break in stride. So Lupe is bilingual. He is able to stay over there when Fabiola and Sherry come over here and do court. So it naturally made sense to slide him over into courts. And I think he's really excited about it.
The amount that we had budgeted for transportation and things for him, we don't, or the amount that we had approved, I should say, not budgeted. We don't need to expense that
Well,
anymore.
what we had done is we had voted to purchase a vehicle, and we will still do that. But it will probably become a function of just like an extra vehicle here. Like, we really don't have a city hall vehicle. If
Right.
somebody has to go and, like for TML coming up, we're kind of picking and pulling for vehicles. So we've already approved that, and we're still working on trying to get one. But essentially that the funds that were budgeted there will kind of mesh into that professional service agreement. With every company with contract employees handles it differently.
Do we have a timeline for that? Because I know, I'm just thinking of,
We're
Some of
hoping
our
by
public-
by January 1st to have him moved over to
okay.
municipal court.
I'm just concerned about some of our public who I think we've been waiting for a long time for a code enforcement
Yeah.
officer, and then now
Oh,
that
no,
we're
he's
moving
still
him-
he's still actively doing code enforcement. We're looking
Okay.
for a January 1st transfer.
Okay.
And then, Ms. McFarland, I know this has been kind of a contention.
Yes.
She is admin under Public Works, but she works over here and does admin work here.
Yes, there's a lot of confusion there, and I don't know the answer to your question, to be quite honest. But I can tell you, going forward, she is budgeted out of Public Works. And I think, again, this is a position where the expectations for that position are gonna be changing.
Okay.
And there is a lot of services, administrative services, that need to be done in Public Works that haven't been done. One of the things that I've talked to you all in the past about is fuel. And
Is what?
fuel.
Like gasoline? Okay,
Gasoline.
okay.
So, Public Works and Police Department, we have, as the mayor and I found out in a meeting the other day, we have fuel tanks at Police and Public Works. We do not own those fuel tanks. So one of the things I had spoke to y'all at the last meeting about is that in this budget year, we will be expected to purchase our own fuel tanks, that we will have readers on them for us and safety security cards for whenever we go to fill up. You have
With like
to
the
put in-
fob that you insert and type
Correct.
in a vehicle number and mileage.
So that is one thing that we are gonna utilize Ms. McFarland on, is essentially being kind of the manager of our different fuel facilities, but then also acting kind of as a fuel broker with several different fuel
Wonderful.
haulers.
I would hope that when you have that discussion with her, because I know she has expressed a couple of times just a lot of concern, consultation about what's
Well,
happened with her back
I'm
and forth
gonna
between admin
break
and
in,
back here.
Mr. McAnally. She's been told several times and given a detailed map-by-map letter from Mayor Branch of what the council voted for. And I believe that was in February, and you didn't come in until May. And the council, without my presence being here also, agreed to bring Ms. McFarland back over here, and it's been expressed time and time again that there's not a need for her to be at Public Works. And if you need a copy of the detailed letter, I'm pretty sure that Mayor Branch
Well, and
can
I
work
will
with
say, like,
Ms.
I don't want anybody to get confused. Just because you're at City Hall doesn't mean that you're not doing Public Works work. There is really no reason, and to be quite honest, it's a safety issue.
Really a safety issue.
It's a safety issue for someone to be out there by themselves. The guys aren't out there. You're out there by yourself. I don't want anybody out there. Ms. McFarland has asked me about moving out there, and I'll be completely honest. I said no. We don't need somebody administratively out at that location. Just because she's at City Hall doesn't mean that she can't do Public Works stuff. Now, I will blanket this statement and say it will be reiterated to staff that we are making salary adjustments. But like I said earlier, it's because expectations
No,
are
I-
changing. And one of the problems that we have right now is everybody wants to do permits, but nobody wants to do permits. That's an essential function of the city, is permit applications, accepting those permits. Yeah, it's a basic core service of this city.
We've already had issues with those things being delayed for people.
Correct.
For
And let me tell
years.
you, we've had meetings with people that are coming into the city, and for anybody who thinks that growth is not coming, you,
Absolutely, and I totally
If
understand.
you don't know
My-
that growth isn't coming, you haven't driven down 359 and 362 the last 3 days.
no, and I just,
My concern is just that she's put under the Public Works, and I want to be sure that if we have a position under Public Works for admin, that we are setting expectations of
yes,
of taking care of whatever admin functions Public Works
Correct.
needs out of that budget.
yes, correct.
Makes sense.
And I think that in the past, there has been some lackadaisical behavior on things not being done that should have been done, and I think that has been reflected over the past couple of years.
I would agree.
And so again, I will reinforce the fact that the expectations are increasing, and we hope that our employees choose to meet those expectations, but should they not, again, you know, we'll work with them on either figuring out a way to meet them or wish them well in the future.
Ms. Ward, if I can just say, I want to just commend you for the effort and work that you put in on putting all of this together. I'm sure it was a Herculean task to get to this point, and I am both awed and admirable for the effort that you've
Well, it's
done.
not perfect, but we're working to get
Well, I
there. I
appreciate
promise
it.
next year it'll be a lot easier.
Appreciate it so much.
Does anybody else have any other questions or? And like I said, I want to let each of you know, it's my personal promise that I am going to do payroll reports for each of the employees, because I think it's important that we communicate directly to our employees what their salary package entails. And as Ms. Molina can tell you, kind of one of my love languages is really loving on my employees and writing them personal notes, recognizing them on birthdays, anniversaries. You know, those are all things that I think are important when you're managing people, because at the end of the day, the people in our city are truly, if we don't have people, then there's no purpose for any of us to be here,
Mhm.
and we have to take care of them.
Thank you for making that recognition.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time coming. Now we can open the public hearing.
Eight 36.
Okay, also, just quickly, one comment on the administration side. In the next couple of weeks, you will see on the finance side, to help alleviate some of the pressures that we had with our unpaid invoices and all of that, we will be separating our finances into having an accounts payable person and an accounts receivable person. So we will be bringing in a new person to strictly handle accounts payable, so that once the bills come in, they can be reviewed, they can be signed off on, distributed to the departments, and then once those are approved, they come back to a separate person who their sole job is paying our bills, accounts payable, and getting them paid on time.
Fantastic.
Yeehaw. You want to say, let the record reflect that there is no public here to make public comment?
Sure.
And we
Let the
could close,
record reflect that there is no public here for public comments.
and we could close.
And we can close the hearing now.
Thank you, Ms.
I was
Mulaney,
waiting on somebody.
Secretary.
It is now 8:38. So therefore, we'll go to agenda item number 7, new business. Approve the adoption of the ordinance for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
I move that we approve the adoption of the ordinance for fiscal year 2023-24 budget.
We have to read it.
Oh, you have to read the
We
whole
have to
thing?
Just-
read the
just the
recital,
whole-
Oh,
just the
okay.
recital.
An ordinance approving and adopting the City of Brookshire, Texas general budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, making appropriations for the city for such year as reflected in said budget, establishing the procedure for intra-budget transfers, and containing other provisions relating to the subject.
Now can I do it, Mayor?
Are you gonna make it with the increase on the,
I'm gonna make it
community
with the
outreach?
changes.
Okay, perfect.
I move that we approve the adoption for the ordinance for the fiscal year 2023-24 budget with the changes as discussed in the meeting today.
Second. You can take Ms. Neuendorf.
A roll call vote is
Absolutely.
necessary. Alderman Newendorf, Alderman Taylor?
Four.
Thought Todd was gonna do
Oh, sorry.
that. This is good.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
4.
Alderman Branch?
4.
My apologies, Mayor.
No problem.
We're all so excited to possibly get out of here before 9 o'clock. If we just,
Twice in a row.
Okay, then. The next one, item is item number 8.
No.
Nope,
We
7B.
gotta ratify the property tax.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we did. I was,
can you remind us what that increase is?
The tax rate will effectively be lowered by 7% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on the average homestead home by approximately $35.
hey,
So it's going to be lowered by 7% and will raise the taxes by approximately $35.
bad as it was.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you need to read anything?
That's it. That's all I had to read.
I move that we ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
Second.
Shared.
I was looking at you to see if you jump on.
Okay.
Do you need a roll call vote for this one? 4.
Go ahead.
Alderman Neuendorf,
4.
Alderman Taylor,
Four.
Alderman McNally.
I made the
You made
motion.
the
Made
motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
He seconded it.
Oh, he seconded. Alderman Branch.
4.
Okay. Now we're ready for number 8.
I make a motion that we adjourn. Oh, did I cut him off?
Taylor seconded.
Taylor. I know.